of the time, including this. So, Pahom, the younger sister's husband, soon joins the debate. He values his life as a peasant. He does not regret all his hard work. However, he does wish he had more land, claiming that with enough land, he would fear no one, not even the devil himself. Okay? If I had plenty of land, I should fear the devil. I shouldn't fear the devil himself. Wow. So, he's too proud to listen to the women debate without defending his own lifestyle. And in his defense, he wishes for social mobility to a higher social class, right? The more land you own, the more money you had. So he says, if I own more land, I wouldn't fear anybody. More land equals more money, and it will protect him from evil, right? Moral high ground here. And then, of course, because it's old fable, the devil had been sitting behind the oven nearby, the devil listening to the family's conversation. He hears Pahom's claim and is like, all right, this guy thinks that he doesn't have to be afraid of me. Let's give him what he wants. So he's going to tempt him with plenty of land so that he can get him in his clutches, all right? So the devil's presence in Pahom's home demonstrates the continual threat of evil in everyday life, right? Evil has to be resisted constantly. His prideful behavior he upsets the devil, who hopes to lure Pahom to hell now. Now, Pahom may have escaped the devil's attention if it wasn't for these boasts, but of course he boasts, and therefore the devil has to take it out on him. So that's basically all of chapter 1. So over the next couple of chapters or sections, you're going to see the development of this plot that Pahom gets more land, and then Pahom is happy for a little bit, and then he becomes unhappy and wishes for more. So that's what happens here. A nearby lady landowner hires this old soldier to manage her land. And while the landowner always tried to treat the peasants well, her newly hired manager starts to impose fines on Pahom and other peasants for minor infractions like wandering livestock, right? The lady landowner's estate is already established, so hiring the old soldier appears quite out of the blue. She does not have a history of imposing fines, which implies that the soldier finds the peasants out of spite, right? He doesn't need to find them. He just wants to, push his authority around. The old soldier's sudden appearance is very suspicious, and this sinful behavior that he does is a sign of evil, and by extension, the devil, right? So that's what they're talking about here. Pahom is repeatedly fined by the old soldier until he is nearly broke and so stressed that he beats and swears at his family. He longs for winter when he can keep his livestock in his shed, eliminating the risk of wandering onto the lady landowner's estate and angering the old soldier. So the old soldier's picking on him, right? He's making his peasant life that he thought was so superior miserable. And this old soldier's behavior really drives Pahom to say, I just need more land. I just need more land. If I had more land, this wouldn't be a problem. He doesn't have enough land to keep his livestock reasonably contained. So she suddenly decides to sell her estate, and the local peasants fear that this innkeeper will buy her land, imposing even more fines. Pahom fears his family won't survive if he continues to be fined. So obviously, things go from like bad to worse, right? It comes really unexpectedly, just like the hiring of the old soldier, and this suggests the influence of the devil. Furthermore, Pahom fears that the innkeeper or somebody of higher social standing will continue to fine the peasants. And because the upper class, the people who have money, are evil, so why wouldn't they, right? So the local peasants convince this lady landowner to sell her property to them in the name of a village commune. However, the devil kind of makes his way in, and they're unable to agree upon a price. As a result, the peasants are forced to buy the land individually based on what they can afford. So just when it appears that they're going to be able to own the land, they begin to quarrel again. Again, the devil complicates Pahom's life by interfering and making the peasants behave foolishly. So now instead of having a whole bunch of land, they all have little pieces. Pahom manages to buy 30 acres of the lady landowner's estate after securing a personal loan. He sells his possessions and hiring out the labor of his children to other people. So even then, he only has enough for this down payment, right? Not enough to buy the land outright. But he's too blinded by his greed. And of course, some people say the influence of the devil that is here to help him realize exactly how much land he does need. That he exploits his own family and goes into debt. He wasn't in debt before, but he goes into debt just to satisfy this desire for more land. So we see the devil's influence on him already. 3. So Pahom lives happily as a landowner until the peasants began trespassing in his meadows and the cornfields. At first, he tries politely to ask them, "Hey guys, this is my land. Let's stay off of it." And then he realizes that they're only trespassing because they're short of land themselves, right? But he fears that they're going to take all his resources and they're going to ruin his fields and crops, and he'll be left with nothing. So, frustrated, he contacts the district courts. When serfdom was outlawed in Russia in 1861 and millions of slaves were granted their freedom, like I talked about, the number of people who were legally entitled to own property were more than the amount of land available, right? It creates economic hardships, and these things were felt for generations. The peasants must trespass on Pahom's land out of necessity, not malice. There's literally no place to go. However, even though his own experiences tells him that I was once in their position too, he's greedy and he's unsympathetic, okay? He repeatedly fines the local peasants. Does that sound familiar? Yeah. The old law enforcement officer was fining him. He has now become, instead of being persecuted, he's the persecutor. So they begin to become angry, just like Pahom did, right? It's a cycle. One day he discovers that many of his trees have been cut down and stolen. And he's convinced that another local peasant, Semyon, is responsible. He accuses him without proof, and the magistrates quickly dismiss the case. Pahom's neighbors are so angry with his numerous fines that they threaten to burn down his house. So his legal actions cause him to lose more in terms of land and natural resources. His greed causes these peaceful peasants to respond violently. And moreover, his greed leads to additional moral decay on his part. He begins to behave like the old soldier he once hated. He accuses somebody of stealing simply because he's a peasant. He has no tangible proof, but to him, the fact that Semyon was a peasant is proof enough he stole the trees. So the shoe is on the other foot here. Although he has plenty of land, he begins to feel cramped on this commune. He fears rumors that many peasants are considering relocating to a different village. Pahom relishes the opportunity to buy the other peasants' land so his estates can become bigger. His greed intensifies. He owns more land than enough land to live comfortably, yet he still desires more, right? So, like I said, with enough land, he wouldn't fear the devil. Well, let's see how much that is. The peasants want to relocate around him because he made them miserable. But instead of recognizing this, the only thing he sees is like, I can get more land. He doesn't see the reason. In the meantime, there's a traveling peasant that seeks food and lodging there. The peasant tells Pahom about a village commune south of the Volga River, this is a big river in Russia, where families are given 25 acres of land per person at no charge. Free land. Like this is, oh my gosh, this is his dream, right? In addition, each member of the commune is also able to purchase more land for 3 rubles an acre. That's pennies on the dollar, right? It's not that much. So obviously this traveling merchant is the devil in disguise, and he further complicates Pahom's life. Like Pahom should be happy where he's at. He's got enough land. He's almost able to buy more. And the devil said, yep, it's time to screw it up again. So he comes in and he encourages Pahom to leave this village for the new place because he's so greedy. Pahom finally sells his land, his home, and his cattle for a profit and moves his entire family to the large village commune south of the Volga. He's convinced that he will face less trespassing and less aggravation if he has more land, right? That's his whole premise behind it. So the fact that he sells his property for a profit also has a negative connotation to it, right? When it comes to his ethics and his morality. A profit suggests either Pahom underpaid the initial seller or he overcharged his new buyer. Either way, his profit is like a form of theft, right? So that's how 3 ends. 4. So at the new place, Pahom is allotted 100 acres of land, 25 for each member of his family. He's also granted the use of the communal pasture and finally has plenty of good farmland. He begins to grow corn and wheat. Obviously, this new place is like a utopia, right? It's everything he ever dreamed. It's what he wanted, and he should be happy now. He has over 3 times the amount of land he owned in the village. In addition to wheat, he can now grow corn. So he can grow more things, more money. His social status should be rising, right? But then, of course, as happens, he begins to feel cramped at this new place as well. He wants to grow more wheat, but he doesn't have enough land. The commune is short on land, and the poorest peasants must mortgage their wheat to merchants to pay their taxes. So Pahom rents additional land to sow wheat, but this land is far from the village, and they have to walk a long way. Okay? Oh my gosh. So his greed makes his happiness impossible. He's got more than enough land, but he's only happy if he turns a profit as well. Remember before, they were living off the land, and it didn't matter. As long as they broke even, as long as they had enough to eat, and they were happy. Now, he needs to have more and more and more land. So he's becoming more and more and more greedy. Pahom gets extra land, but now that he got his wish, right? He has more land to grow wheat. Now it's too far away. Okay? There's an old saying, the grass is always greener on the other side. That means you're never satisfied with what you have. And this really highlights Pahom right now. He soon grows tired of renting his land, of course, and he's convinced that owning freehold land, property that is not rented or part of a commune, will be more convenient and profitable. However, since this is in high demand, he has a difficult time finding it to buy. He doesn't want to work all that hard to make a living. This is a very big contrast to the Pahom that we were introduced to at the beginning of the story. He now believes that by avoiding rent and communal living through private land ownership, his life will be easy and he'll make even more money. It's not about being happy anymore for Pahom. It's about more and more and more money. He's got a little bit. He doesn't think he has enough. He wants more. A bankrupt peasant agrees to sell Pahom 1,300 acres of land for a fair price. However, a passing merchant, hint the devil, suddenly appears looking for a place to water his horses. So, the devil again inserts himself into Pahom's life, this time disguising himself as the merchant. Considering there's a pattern that's been taken on the story so far, the devil is going to provide another opportunity for Pahom to sin, right? And that's exactly what happened. The merchant tells him that he has just returned from the faraway land of the Bashkirs, where he purchased 13,000 acres of land for 1,000 rubles. So it went from 1,300 acres. This is a factor of 10. In addition, if you give the Bashirs a few presents, the land had only cost him 20 kopecks per acre. That's even less than a ruble. Okay? The merchant says that there are stupid as sheep, and you can get land off of them for practically nothing. So, setting up a moral dilemma, right? If these people don't know what their land is worth and you give them the cheapest possible price for it, it's kind of like sinning, right? You're taking advantage of these people. And the devil sets up this moral situation where Pahom can once again, if he just proved he was the bigger man and not sinned and was happy with what he wanted, this would never happen. But because he's greedy and because he wants more and more land, this opportunity presents itself and he can't help but go and do it. So he forgets about the bankrupt peasant, and he decides to travel to this land of the Bashkirs to kind of take advantage of them. So he sets off for the land of the Bashkirs. Almost immediately, he leaves behind his family and he takes a workman with him. They stop and they purchase tea, vodka, and other small presents, probably very cheap, for these Bashkirs along the way. They travel 7 days before getting there. Okay, his desire for more land has now isolated him from his family altogether, particularly from his wife. Okay, whose presence in the story, it kind of decreases with each new land purchase until she's left behind altogether. Strangely, the Bashkirs don't appear to work very much. They don't plow their fields. They allow their livestock to just wander freely. They happily sit drinking this drink called kumis. It's an appreciation of life's pleasures. It's mildly alcoholic. It has a lot of cultural significance, but basically they just sit around drinking all day. They enjoy each other's company, and their lives seem to kind of just take on, and it works, right? Pahom describes them as kind, ignorant, and speaking no Russian. They are portrayed as the other two Pahom, right? The Bashkirs, and Pahom considers them ignorant because they're different, right? He doesn't understand. They drink this alcoholic drink. It's fermented mare's milk, and it's culturally known for its healing properties, and he just kind of dismisses it. Through an interpreter, the Bashkirs warmly welcome Pahom, providing him with a big old tent and all the kumis that he can drink. They slaughter a sheep to feed him, and he gives them presents. And as their customs, they offer him a gift of choosing as repayment for his kindness. And what does Pahom want? Pahom wants land, so that's what he requests. So these Bashkirs are really, really kind to him. Even though he's there to exploit him, they're still very kind. Within their culture, this kumis is often consumed during times of celebration, and this new person's arrival is a cause to celebrate. Their kindness is real, right? Unlike Pahom. Pahom brought gifts so he can get things out of them. The Bashirs just are happy that somebody's there with him. Okay? When he says land, they become excited. They claim that Pahom could have as much land as he would like. All he must do is pick out a parcel of land. Okay? They begin to argue. According to custom, the Bashkirs can do nothing without the consent of the elder Bashkir. However, many of the Bashkirs claim his consent is not necessary. So there's an excitement over his request, and it's to the reader, it's supposed to be a little suspicious, right? Like, hey, wait a minute. How are they excited about giving him land? Like, what's going on? Their disagreement over the necessary of the elder Bashkir's consent suggests they have some inside knowledge of Pahom's greediness and the way it will affect his ability to purchase their land. So that's kind of a red flag. 6. So they argue. The elder shows up. They all stand at attention as he enters, and Pahom presents him with 5 pounds of tea and his best robe, right? Like, probably not that expensive, but to these Bashkir people, a little bit more than what they have. So unlike the other Bashkirs, the elder speaks to him in Russian. So the elder Bashkir, he commands respect, and because he speaks Russian, he's less ignorant than the other Bashkirs in Pahom's eyes. But once again, the devil has disguised himself, posing as the elder, and he directly inserts himself into Pahom's life to further influence his sinful behavior. Now, whenever the devil has inserted himself into Pahom's life, he has not forced Pahom's hand. He is not the one that gets into his mind and says, you will do this. No, Pahom still has free will. And what the devil has done is he has created situations where Pahom's character will show through. Okay? If Pahom wasn't interested in so much land and ignored the traveling merchant of his 13,000 acres and went instead for the 1,300 acres when he bought out the bankrupt commune, we would never be here. And if you follow back the events in the story, it's the same thing that happens every time. A situation is presented, Pahom chooses to be greedy and take the one that leads to sin. All because of that one phrase, if I had enough land, I shouldn't be afraid of the devil. Okay? So, all Pahom's choices. The elder Bashkir confirms that Pahom may have his pick of land as much as he wants. Yet, Pahom's a little bit suspect, right? Without a formal contract, Pahom fears that they're just going to say, yeah, no, you can't have it after all. And eventually the elder agrees to provide Pahom with a contract to ensure his ownership. Pahom can hardly believe his luck, and he kind of questions the validity of the deal. He kind of is like, wait a minute. How can he be sure that the future generations of Bashirs won't want the land back? According to Pahom, the future is out of their hands, and God has complete control. Ironic statement, right? The elder informs Pahom that there is a set rate for their land, 1,000 rubles per day. The Bashirs sell land based on how much ground a buyer can cover in one day. The amount of land Pahom can walk around in one day is his price for 1,000 rubles. Now, this sparks even more of Pahom's greed, right? He believes he'll be able to cover a large amount of land and buy even more property than he ever imagined. The elder Bashkir informed Pahom that he must return to his starting point by sunset or he will forfeit all of his land. So here's 1,000. I'm going to walk. If I don't reach where I started by sunset, the 1,000's yours. I get no land. So he insists that he carries a spade. It's like a shovel to mark his perimeter along the way. So he's got to dig up a little thing. He's got to throw a marker in, and he's got to keep walking. And that is how they're going to portion off his land. I can't think. So Bashkir's landed a deal is a test of greed to Pahom, right? If he attempts to take too much, he'll end up with nothing. The elder Bashkir wishes Pahom good luck and good health in the form of more of this drink, kumis, and gives the spade. Okay, and that becomes a symbol in a little bit. So, Pahom returns to his comfortable tent for the night, excited for his walk the next day, but he's unable to sleep. And just before dawn, he drifts off and has a strange dream. Pahom experiences this dream just before dawn, the time of night typically considered to be the darkest. It's perfect time for evil to appear. Pahom dreams that he's awake and in his tent, and he hears the Bashkirs laughing. He goes outside and sees the elder holding his side, laughing hysterically. On closer inspection, Pahom realizes it's not the elder at all, but the passing merchant who told him about the land. Suddenly, the merchant turns into the traveling peasant who informed Pahom of the commune south of the Volga River. So, each of the men that Pahom sees in his dream are connected in some way, right? To the past land transaction that has brought us here. Now, we as the reader know that they're all embodiments of the devil. And the fact that the Bashkirs are laughing hysterically implies that Pahom is unknowingly at the center of some joke. Pahom's dream soon takes an even stranger turn, and the traveling peasant transforms into the devil, complete with a horn and hoofs, laughing. Pahom discovers his own dead body at the foot of the devil, wearing only a shirt and trousers without shoes. The devil reveals himself to Pahom in his dream. As each of the devil's disguises led Pahom to purchase land, the author, Tolstoy, draws a direct parallel between evil and land ownership. Pahom is startled awake and quickly shakes off the dream. It's nearly sunrise, time for him to start, and he goes to wake the Bashkirs. They assemble, offer him a little bit more of the kumis, but he declines and because he wants to start. Despite this dream that foretells his own death, he ignores it. He's impatient And he wants more land, he wants more land, he wants more land. His greed for land has outpaced all of his other concerns. He refuses the offer of this kumis, which is a symbol of good health and life, and that might come to bite him later. So they gather on a small hill and survey the land. Beautiful farmland stretches as far as the eye can see. And the elder confirms that Pahom may have as much of it as he likes. The elder marks the starting point with his fox fur cap, and Pahom paces 1,000 rubles on the cap. He removes his outer coat, he packs a small sack of bread, secures a flask on his belt, and he makes sure to grab the spade before setting off in the direction of the rising sun. As he considers where to begin his walk, he removes his outer clothing in preparation. And he now begins to physically resemble the one he saw in his dream, right? He's not barefoot yet, but he still doesn't heed the warning. Again, we draw the attention to his shovel, the spade, the tool that he has to mark the land with. He walks steadily, digs his first hole after 3/4 of a mile. He continues digging more and more holes to mark his land. After several miles, he removes his overcoat under the heat of the sun. It's now past breakfast, and Pahom removes his shoes to keep cool. With each new hole he digs to mark his property, his greed carries further away from the cap and his starting point, increasing his exhaustion. As he removes his shoes, he even more closely resembles his dream, though he doesn't internalize it at all. He makes a sharp left turn and continues walking in the new direction. He stops for water and bread, but he becomes tired, wanting to sleep. Eager to get as much land as possible, Pahom pushes on and refuses to rest. His body is failing, and his greed drives him on. He could simply stop and rest and settle for a little bit less land, but he refuses. His greed is overpowering and threatens his well-being. Pahom continues to walk, and just as he's about to turn left again to begin making his way back, he spots a lush hollow, perfect for growing flax. He continues to the hollow, making his way with the spade. He has only grown wheat and corn in the past, yet he suddenly desires flax. He must go out of his way to navigate to the hollow, increasing the unlikelihood of not returning at the time, right? He continues to dig with the spade, each hole, his exhaustion is driving him further from his starting point, and unbeknownst to him, a little bit closer to death. By now, he's walked over 10 miles. He's marked 2 of the 3 sides of his property, and he must walk quickly down the 3rd side, making it considerably shorter and lopsided, to walk the 10 miles back to the Bashirs and the elder Bashir's fox fur cap. He's been too greedy. He's attempted to take too much, and his chances for returning are growing slim. The parcel of land he's claimed is now lopsided and thin, suggesting he could have actually claimed more land had he been more reasonable and more moderate. So, he's walking the 3rd side, and it's really difficult now. The sun is high and hot, and his bare feet are cut and bruised. Okay, I don't know why he'd take off his shoes, but yeah, I guess. He's exhausted, and the waning sun, the setting sun, reminds him there's no real time to rest. His body continues to deteriorate, and his greed is the thing that's spurring him on. Pahom worries that he's been too greedy, finally. Making it back in time seems impossible, and he throws off his excess clothes, including his boots, flask, cap. He grabs a spade and begins to run back to the starting point. For the first time in the story, Pahom finally acknowledges his greed, and yet it makes little difference in his own behavior. He removes the last of his clothes, now appearing exactly as he had in the dream. But he still does not stop. Strangely, as he lightens his load, he leaves behind his water and keeps the spade. It's his greed has now caused him to choose his life, or his death, represented by the spade, over life, represented by the water. The spade enables him to mark more land, but he doesn't have any water left. So Pahom worries he may die from exhaustion, but fears they will laugh and call him foolish for taking so much land if he is unable to complete his walk. He can hear them cheering him on from the starting point, and their yells to give him additional strength. He's also fueled by his pride, right? He doesn't want to not die. He doesn't want them to laugh at him. And that's, I guess, his final sin right there. As he reaches the bottom of the hill from where he began, it becomes dark. From his position, it appears the sun has set, and he considers stopping. But he hears the cheers from the Bashkirs at the top of the hill, and the sun is not yet set on them. All right? Pahom's pride and these cheers seem to drive him up that hill, even though it seems unlikely he can outrun the sun. At the top of the hill, the elder Bashkir sits by his fox fur cap, laughing. Suddenly, Pahom remembers his strange dream, just in time as he reaches the cap. His legs give way, and Pahom drops dead from exhaustion. Blood dripping from his mouth, his workman runs to his body, and realizing that Pahom is dead, he buries him using the spade that Pahom has used. So Pahom finally realizes that his dream was a warning, but it's too late. Overwhelmed by his greed and his pride, Pahom is blind to the efforts of the devil, and he pays with his life. He left his family behind, and there's only this workman with Pahom when he dies. And when he dies in the end, we finally get the answer to how much land does a man need. The only land that the man needs is as much to bury him in. And that's kind of the moral of the story here. Lots of themes running through this. We talked about, greed and its corrupting influence, right? If Pahom wasn't so greedy, he'd be fine. We talked a little bit about class and society. There's a critical lens on the Russian society there. The poor are routinely deprived to make sure that the rich remain wealthy. There might be a couple of analogies to present-day America. You make your own connections there. God, the devil, and free will is another theme, right? There's only 3 characters who are actually named. We have the devil, we have Pahom, and we have the elder. And that's it. And 2 of those people are the same. So, it's not that the devil has tricked him into making all of these horrible choices. It's the fact that Pahom chose them of his own free will. That's the story. That's the moral. That if you choose the good thing, if you choose the right way, if you don't give in to temptation or greed, Pahom would still be living fine, and he would probably be very successful. The last theme, we have a little bit of death and pride, right? Like, no amount of material land or wealth can protect Pahom from death. When death comes for him during his attempt to walk the Bashkir's land, he disregards it and shows a little fear. And it's this greed that's blinding him to the dangers that he's in. Okay? It's his own pride. He doesn't want to look bad in front of the Bashkirs. He doesn't want them to make fun of him. He wants the most that he can get out of it. And so that ends up being his downfall. All right. I think there are a couple different symbols that we can talk about real quick. The kumis is a symbol, right? It's health and happiness, and he refuses it before. And the last one is the spade, right? The spade is a good one. The spade symbolizes greed. It's a common tool. It's just like a shovel. And when the devil insists that he take it to mark his way, basically mapping it out, he uses it to dig hole after hole as he goes, claiming this new land. Even as his body begins to deteriorate under the stress and the heat, he fears he's not going to make it back to his starting point. And what's the thing that he's focused most on? Getting more land. So he focuses more on this spade with him than with the water that's going to keep him alive. In the end, he's literally using the spade. He's leaning on it to make sure that he can walk to where he needs to go. Okay? And that spade, that pride, that greed is what ends up leading to his death. At the end, the workman even digs the grave with the spade that he has. So that is basically the end of the spade. All right. You have an assignment to do that leads with this. I'm going to show you what it is. Student view. Hold on, guys. So here it is right here. It's multiple choice. Just put the answers. I don't need the questions. If it asks you to use examples from the story, it needs to be a couple sentences. Do not do this 16. Don't do that. And then pick from the extended response. I need you to pick 2. 2 from the extended response. Okay, short answer, multiple choice, couple sentences, and then pick 2 from extended response. That's up to you to see what you want to do. When you need to actually do this, all you need to do is attach a Word doc to this assignment. Okay, because it won't let you type on the PDF. Just start a new document, attach your work, upload your work, and then when you submit it, I'll see it. Last thing before I let you go, I have 7 Flipgrid videos from yesterday. I'm going to be publishing your grades soon, and when you're not doing well because you don't have Flipgrid videos in, you don't have anybody to blame but yourself, please get those done. Other than that, I will be on if you have any questions. If not, get in those novel groups. You will be having a quiz on chapters 3 and 4 tomorrow. Make sure that you read those chapters and you are ready for the test. If you don't have any questions, you are off to your novel groups. Have a good day.